Hey, did you know that first-time guests are watching absolutely everything? They're not just looking for coffee or kids check-in, they're looking for signals. Am I welcome here? Do people like being here? And really, do I belong? You only get one chance to answer those questions, and most churches are answering them by accident. Welcome to the Church Made Simple podcast, where churches thrive when everyone knows what to do and why it matters. We replace confusion with confidence so your team can serve with clarity, ownership, and purpose. You know, your guest experience is discipleship. Because before someone hears your sermon, before they join one of your groups, before they even hear the gospel, they're going to be interpreting your systems. And if your systems feel disorganized, if they feel cold, or if they feel inconsistent, guests are going to walk away with one decision. This place is not for me. We want to help you reverse that. And so I want to introduce a topic of conversation today called the guest experience system. A lot of churches overlook this system. We're so focused on our service, our Sunday service system, that we forget that there are first-time guests that could be walking in at any moment. Sometimes we're so focused on the system of the sermon itself, we forget there are guests that could walk in at any moment. The guest experience system is designed to help you take a full journey of a guest from the moment they pull into your property to the ultimate follow-up and hopefully their return. We're going to answer some of the questions in this system to help you, like how are guests supposed to be greeted? What do they see and what do they hear first? Who guides them through your church's space? And then what happens after they leave? What we have to determine is that everything we do needs to be intentional, not accidental, because accidental systems don't build churches that grow and flourish. Accidental systems do not build a church that is effective. So let's talk about the guest framework. And I'm spelling this G.E.S.T. I don't have a U for this, so I apologize. But it's a 4-part structure. It's going to help you build a guest experience system that's simple, repeatable, and spirit-led. So the G stands for simply greeting with intentionality. You know, first impressions matter, but so does authenticity. I remember walking into a church one time, and it was very interesting because I was dressed complete opposite of the culture of the church. Now, I didn't know what kind of a church I was walking into. I was invited to come see one of my college professors who was speaking that day. And I walked in, my wife was with me, and I remember the service was probably about an hour and a half long. In that hour and a half, from the moment we pulled into the parking lot to the time we left, the only person who greeted us was my college professor. That was it. And can I tell you something? I would never go back to that church if I was a guest. First impressions matter, but so does authenticity. And that church showed me that they are authentically a church that does not care about their guests. All they care about is making it through that Sunday. And to be honest, quite honest, the entire structure of their service, the environment, everything from start to finish showed me that they really did not care. I'm guessing they're probably not around anymore. So we need to ask some questions around this welcoming of first-time guests. Do guests feel acknowledged within, get this, 10 seconds of their arrival? Yeah, you've got 10 seconds to acknowledge them. And that doesn't mean that you have somebody run to their car within 10 seconds and go, hey. But it does mean that you should have, if you have a parking team, hey, have somebody that's just waving or directing traffic. Have flags outside welcoming first-time guests. One of the best things that we did was we created first-time guest parking spots that are right up front. It just lets first-time guests know we're acknowledging that you have arrived. You know, is your team, when they acknowledge guests, are they trained to smile with their voice? I did a cold calling job for a while. I hated it. But man, we had some of the best training. I had to do about a week and a half of training. And one of the elements of their training was people can hear your smile on the phone. And so they had us practice. We would talk with an angry face. We would talk with a smiley face. And it was interesting because when you recorded yourself, you could hear back the smile. And just because your team is smiling does not mean that people can hear the smile with their voice. So are your people authentically excited to see guests? Do they authentically care that someone just walked in? Well, then the tone of their voice should reflect the smile on their face. Do people know where to go without asking? Okay, this is hard, but I've seen so many churches have no directional signage in their facilities, and it boggles my mind. If you go to any airport, any shopping mall, any large area, you have directional signs everywhere you go. You know which floor the store that you're looking for is on. Even now, I shop at Kroger. Now, I do Kroger delivery most of the time, but when my wife and I have to go into a Kroger grocery store, their app actually has where I can put what I'm looking for into the app, and it will tell me which aisle it's on. Not only that, it has a full map of the grocery store, so I can walk to whichever aisle. I can find it immediately. If someone walked in, and let's say all of your host team is preoccupied with something else, which that does happen, could they find where to go without asking questions? Do you have clear signage on where kids check-in is, where the kids' classrooms are? Do you have directions, not just in a sign when they first walk in, but as they walk down the hall, continued signage to let them know where to go? Friendly does not mean fake. Scripted greetings are going to feel forced. So one of the things that you can do along with your signage is equip your team with certain principles, but not certain phrases. We don't want to just continue a cultish verbiage, right? But we want to have certain principles. So make sure that people can hear your smile through your voice. That's a simple principle. Another principle, a bonus for you that I would help you with: never point people to where they're supposed to go. Walk with them. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. I can't stand that. I learned that working in retail. As you can tell, I've had a ton of different jobs before ministry, but I learned that working in retail. You never point a customer to the product they're looking for. You walk with them. You establish a rapport with them. You build that relational equity with them. So that's our G of our guest experience system. Let's talk about E. We're going to escort with clarity. And this goes back to my point of don't point, but walk with. Because when we escort with clarity, confusion will kill connection. Confusion kills connection. So we want to be clear about everything. So when someone walks in, is it obvious how to check kids in? Not just where to do it, but how to do it. Are signs clear in your church, or are they churchy? Hey, by the way, whoever's in charge of the signs of your church, you don't need your logo all over the thing. You don't need 10 million scriptures all over it. You don't need your pastor's picture all over it. Just get some simple verbiage. Make sure the color scheme is welcoming and inviting. It doesn't need to be neon and modernized for Gen Z or anything. People just need to know where to go. So list a room, what age group is in that room, and have an arrow pointing either forward, left, right, or backward. Have an arrow pointing to the sanctuary. Here's a big one. Have an arrow pointing to where the bathrooms are. We don't really talk about this. I'm sure there's been research done, but if I had to guess, I would guess probably 75 to 80% of first-time guests in our church, the first thing they're looking for is the kids department. Where do their kids go? The second thing is the bathrooms. Anybody can find the sanctuary, but I need to know where the bathroom is. So, are your guests ready to know, or can they find where certain things are in your church? And then lastly, are guests guided personally, or are they pointed? Are you walking with them? Does your host team been trained to carry a casual conversation as they're walking them to where they need to go? I want to get back to the check-in for just a second. I said this very quickly, and I want to make sure I'm clear on this. When I say, is it obvious how to check kids in? I don't mean do people know where to tap? But I mean, do you have somebody there who is trained, thoroughly trained on walking a first-time guest through not only kids check-in, but usually before that, it's a registration. So do they understand how to use your system? There are some people who are technologically inept and they don't know how to use an iPad. They don't know what Planning Center is. They don't know what any of this software we use is. So they need help with that. One of the most helpful things you can have, we don't have this right now, we have check-in systems set up and we have someone who's there to help guide people. Now they give them their space because some people don't want you knowing their personal information even though it's going into our database, which I understand that. But I've seen other churches where they will actually carry check-in iPads with them and they can register families on the spot as they walk in. Now you don't want to be pushy with that, but again, that's just one more ease of access for people. One of the best ways to check this whole experience is asking your teams if the building is familiar to them. We had a team training recently, and one of the things I asked my guest experience director to do, I said, I want you to take your entire team through a walkthrough of the building as first-time guests. Start all the way out in the parking lot and have them walk in. And I want you to ask them where certain things are in our church. Where is the coffee? Where is the kids' building? Where do the 3-year-olds go? Where do the 6-year-olds go? Where do the 11-year-olds go? I want you to ask them all these questions, and I want to see if they're familiar with this. And if they're not, we have to be clear with them. We have to train them. We want to remove every question mark from a guest before they can even ask it. So do some training with your team and have them act as first-time guests, or even better, go to another church and act as a first-time guest, random church in your city, and start writing down questions that you have. All right, that's our E in the guest experience system. Let's talk about the S. We're going to serve with no strings attached. Man, this is important. This will free a lot of people in church. Hospitality in the house of God is not about impressing people, and it's not about trying to get people to come back. It's sincerely about honoring people. We say it every single week. When we welcome our first-time guests from the stage, we are so honored that you chose our church. Listen, we're in the Bible Belt. We're in Texas. There is literally a church on every corner of our city. So when people walk into our church, we're honored by that. Even if it means, I just met a guy last Sunday, and I said, how did you find the church? And he said, well, I was actually going to another church, and I got to their parking lot and realized they were closed for some reason, so I turned around and came back to yours. And I said the same thing. I said, listen, man, we are honored that you walked through these doors. We don't want to just impress people. We're not trying to get them to come back. We want to honor them because honor is authentic. And so you got to ask some questions about your team, about the experience. One of those is, are your volunteers interruptible? Like, I know we all have things to do, but if a guest interrupted one of your team members who's in the middle of something, do they know how to handle that? Can they stop what they're doing and honor the guest? Or do they go, oh, you need to talk to that person over there. Oh, it's over there around the corner. Oh, go up the stairs and to the left. Man, come on, we got to have better. Do you prioritize people over processes? Same thing, same mindset. You know, I can't remember what hotel it was, but I want to say it was the Ritz-Carlton. It may be the Four Seasons. But they had a guest operator who told their entire team that each one of you every day is allowed to do something for a guest up to, I think, $500. I don't care what rules we have in place. If they ask for something specific, you can give it to them up to $500. Somebody comes to your hotel and they say, the airport lost my luggage. Hey, we'd like to buy you a gift card to go shopping in our guest store here. You can buy whatever you want up to $500. Hey, this person was asking where the best latte is. Hey, we're going to go ahead and get a latte delivered to you. So our process would be, well, we have a budget and we want to cut. Our process at church would be, well, we got to get ready for everything in the service. We got to make sure that the lights are right and this is right and that is right. But do you prioritize people over processes? Because people are what matters most. Are guests asked for info too soon? I just had a conversation with a couple people on my team because I recognized we have some sweet people, some wonderful people who are on our host team. They welcome people as they come in. And I saw one Sunday where one of our host team members was pulling people immediately, as soon as they walk through the doors, over to our guest kiosk to get their information and tell them we have a free gift for you and stuff. And I said, hey, let them breathe. Please, just let them find the bathroom. Let them grab a coffee. And so we do this now. Instead of immediately trying to get their information, we have the opportunity to provide their information in the service. So let them before service and for the first 20, 30, 40 minutes of your service, chill out, get a feel for what's going on, and then do the ask. Hey, if you're enjoying your time here, we would love to connect with you personally. And so there's a QR code on the screen behind me. If you're watching online for the first time, there's a QR code there. Scan that, fill out that digital connect form, and just let us know about your experience. And here's what I can promise you. We're not going to spam you, but we're going to have somebody from our team, a real person, intentionally reach out to connect with you this week. Listen, we don't want to chase their data. We want to create delight in them. People will want to come back if they feel seen and served. Now, let's get to the last focus of the system. T, track and follow up with purpose. Listen, what happens after Sunday matters just as much as what happens on Sunday. So what is your follow-up rhythm? Or do you even have a follow-up rhythm? Do guests get a thoughtful message from you, or do they get this mass-produced email? We used to be guilty of that until we got some coaching from somebody. They say, listen, the whole email thing is a mess. People know when it is automatically generated. People know when you're just plugging in their first name. Dear so-and-so, we're so glad you came here. And there's nothing wrong with sending an email, but is it just a mass-produced one, or is it personally intentional? The reason why we moved specifically to having a real person reach out to a first-time guest is because we want them to know, hey, you met this person when you came, and this person remembers you. You were seen. And so we want to ask you about your visit. We want to ask how we can pray with you, and we want to connect you to your next step. And so here's the last question. What is their next step? What's the next step that fits their needs? Everybody's need will be intentionally different. I just met a family this past Sunday. Their first need was simply to find a church where they can heal. I mean, it hit me hard. But this husband and wife team, they're sharing their story about the church they just came out of. And it was similar to an experience I've had. And they told me, they said, listen, Pastor, we can do anything in the church, and we have this desire to serve. We want to get involved, but we know that what's healthy for us right now is we need to just sit and heal. And I hope that's okay. Can I tell you something? Their next step is sit down and heal. We've had families who have come in, and their first time, they love it. Their next step is not, how do I get involved? Their next step is, hey, what do you have for my student? My 14-year-old is looking to connect with some other people. Do you have a clear next step for them? Maybe you have somebody in your church that comes in and says, listen, I really love outreach. I would love to learn how to get involved in your outreach ministry. Do you have a next step? So we need to do an audit of all of our next steps that fit that person's or that family's needs. So don't just dump people into a pipeline. Invite them to take their next step. Invite them into a relationship with the people of your church. If your guest experience isn't a system, it's going to be a big risk because every week people are deciding, am I coming back? Do I matter here? Can I trust this church? So don't leave that decision to chance. Design a system that earns it every single Sunday. If you want people to stay, you have to make the first experience stick. So greet with warmth, escort with clarity, serve without strings, and track with purpose. Don't just welcome people. Walk with them on this journey. To help you, I've given you a guest experience starter kit. It's a downloadable thing that you can do. It has a team discussion in there as well. Download that, walk through it with your team, talk to your guest experience or your host team. I've got a volunteer training checklist in there, some first-time guests, some email templates that you can either use as an email, again, personalize them, or you can use them as a text message, and some Sunday flow examples that will help you, not hinder you. I just want you to design a system that's simple and that welcomes guests like God would be pleased about. Now, next week in our episode, we're going to talk about systems that scale with you, not strangle you. Because listen, what works at 50 people does not work at 100 people. What works at 100 people definitely doesn't work at 200 people, and so forth, so on. And I think there's some of us in our areas that we're in, we want to grow beyond 200, maybe even 500, maybe even 1,000 if God has it in the plans. But if we don't have systems that can stretch with us, man, we are going to get burned out. So until then, keep leading with clarity and keep making church simple.